Okay, I'm back to finish my thoughts on part one, Conant Show 94, and we are at Tuesday the 11th, I think. Well, it is August, and it is 2020. Alright, so I have some cheat sheet notes. I've been holding this thought where I left off, and I was talking about the Five-Nation Confederacy in New York State, and the territories that to this day are still here, and that the Adirondacks have been under litigation for probably 100 years or thereabouts, and that I was also connecting how our environment and everything that lives in it, and the indigenous nations of the world, really, but let's just stay with who I know here. My various friends in and relations in the Native community related to me many ideas that I found very appealing, and that is the idea of a web of life. Now, I was talking earlier about this philosophical divide, and the question of how our responsibility during a alleged pandemic, and I'm not to minimize, as I said in my previous section. My heart goes out to anybody who's been impacted by COVID and coronavirus and whatever else they're calling it. I call it. Be that as it may, there has been a real divide between peoples, and I'm seeing, friendships come apart at the seams, and families even coming apart, and being not only separated physically and social distancing and masking and all of the above, all of this stuff that's being done as a prophylactic to prevent the spread of the disease, which is spreading anyway, and it's going to. Again, I'm a big fan of the Swedish model. We should be doing it. And herd immunity can only happen if you allow the disease to run its course. And when you're talking about something where the target population is the old and the weak, and I have to say, the wolf picks on the old and the weak of its whatever it's predating on, whether it's deer or badger, or you don't want to pick on a badger, by the way, unless it's very old and very weak. But the point is that nature has its way of dealing with life and death and the cycle of it. And my personal feeling is no, I do not trust scientists and pharmaceutical companies who have a profit motive on managing my health. And yes, we have ducks. They're very cute. Anyway, the gist of this observation and commentary that I have, and these are my opinions, and I'm not giving medical advice or any of that nonsense. I'm just saying that there is a logic failure going on, and it's very instructive to relate to our native brothers and sisters who, since Columbus landed here, have been trying to give us pointers on how to live in harmony with our environment. I had a lovely friend, and she used to talk about the cosmic contract. You know, that we're all born with a cosmic contract. And she worked in Wall Street. Stella, she's passed away now. And she was black and a woman, and she got up into the high offices in Wall Street. She was a brilliant trader, brilliant with numbers, and she fought tooth and nail to make the success that she did in her life financially, which was impressive. And I met her in Woodstock. I was the carpenter for the landlord that she was renting from, and so we got acquainted and developed a friendship of some 5-10 years. It's all going by so fast, folks. Notice that? Anyway, Stella, from her perspective, talked about, you know, her spirituality is that we have a cosmic contract to fulfill in our lifetimes, and I really like that idea. You know, that was really appealing, and I shared what you know, philosophies and stories I had from the Seneca and the Mohawk, and she really loved listening to that, and the point of all this is that there is this web of life, and every living thing, even noisy ducks, have a purpose in this natural construction. And it's not much different in our health. You know, we have all of this biota, all these viruses and bacteria and microbes, and you know, did you know that every cell in your body, whether it's a bone cell, a connective tissue cell, a heart muscle cell, every cell has a relation in the environment. There are bacteria that have been made an agreement to collect in. Certain bacteria make up our muscle fibers, certain bacteria. Every cell has an analog in nature, or a relationship or a relative, an ancestor still existing in our environment in nature. That's what we're made out of. Okay? We're made out of these cells, and these cells have all these relationships with bacteria as relatives out in the environment. So that's how connected we are to the earth and to all living things. Even viruses play a role, and we shouldn't be afraid. Okay? So the big argument that I was alluding to in part one, and that you're really not allowed to, you know, if you do ask this question, you get shut down, you're called crazy. What's the big thing now? Cancel culture? They cancel you? Yeah, this is just rude. That's what it is. But where I'm going with this is, let's talk about vaccines for a moment. Let's return to that. And vaccines, as I understand it, and in my research that I've done as just an independent scholar, you know, I don't have any school to hang my shingle on. I am who I am, and I look at everything I can because I'm an information hound, right? And from what I understand about how vaccines work, you can make a vaccines for viruses, but they don't work for, you can't make a vaccine for bacteria. Okay, there's a difference. And I always wondered about that, what that's about. But in any event, moving on to the vaccine, we are told now that everybody has to get it to create herd immunity. Well, wait a minute. No, herd immunity happens from the natural path of the pathogen that runs through a population, and the people who get sick get well, and then their bodies are now tuned, and their immune systems have now adjusted itself to producing the antibodies that are correct for dealing with whatever that pathogen might be. It could be a bacterial infection, or it could be a viral infection. And there's a great, you know, and the more I look into the virus information, There is a great divide in the philosophy of what viruses really are and how they actually function. But I'm not going to get into that. Well, what I will go is okay, so viruses are the only thing you can really make a vaccine for. Okay. And when you have a good vaccine, one that does its job, the job is to artificially stimulate your immune system into thinking it was exposed to the disease and making the right antibodies even though you haven't been exposed to the disease, except there's one caveat: they make the vaccine with the disease. So you're actually getting what they call an attenuated virus of the disease that produces an immune response, and that immune response might be a fever. You might actually get the disease. In some cases you'll get the full-blown disease. In some cases it's even worse because it's been, tweaked in the lab when they were cooking it up. So it's a risky business, this vaccine thing. Just telling you, it is. That's a fact. And they tell you so. And they make you sign a release saying so. So if anybody's saying, how do you know? I know because I was, arm twisted to sign a release for my kids to get vaccinated. And I said, no, it says here, the doctor or nurse administering this will sign off on this and take responsibility for the damage done to my kid. And I said, you sign that first, and then I'll sign it. And they wouldn't do it. That was in the 1990s. So this vaccine business goes to the idea that now we're being told that, well, there's asymptomatic people. And then there are people who are infected, but they're not showing symptoms, but they're spreaders. They're carriers. And that was a big red flag for me, because I remember the swine flu in the 70s and the 60s and 70s, 69 to 72. I remember that thing. I was scared because it was the same stuff in the media. This thing was terrible, and it was bad. And it happened to hit young people, not old people. It hit the young and the weak, not the old and the weak. Okay, so then, if I'm protected, if I got a vaccine for, say, COVID, that they gave me a guarantee, which they're not doing, by the way. They're saying it's probably going to be maybe 50% effective. Well, what's the point then? This is just going to go on and on and on. This is not okay. Meanwhile, Sweden, I vote for Sweden for president. I mean, their policy, their scientists, and their nation in the world overall has done the best by allowing herd immunity to develop naturally. And that's what we should be doing. That's my opinion. But let's get back to this thing about the vaccine. All right. They're changing the story now about vaccine. Now everybody has to be vaccinated to make herd immunity. And that to stop the spread, you got to get the vaccine. Vaccines don't stop the spread. Let's wrap it back to how vaccines are made. You're actually getting the disease in the vaccine, what they call an attenuated virus, to actually get sick in a minimal way. You might not even notice it, so that you have an immune response, so that when you are exposed to the real deal out there in the world, you won't get sick. All right. If that's the case, then why should I get a vaccine if I don't want one? I've not been sick. I'm not sick. I don't want to get sick. But in my understanding and my own personal medical choices, if I do get sick, so be it. And I will fight it on my terms with the methods that I know. So far, I've been very sick with horrible chest colds and flus. Not many, few of them. At 60 years on the planet, I've been sick with a flu maybe 3 times. Once when I was a kid, once maybe in my 20s, and once in my 30s. Maybe fourth. Maybe I think when I was in my 40s, late 40s, or early 50s. Yeah, maybe one more. It was horrible. Chest colds, head colds, or coronavirus most of the time, 90% of the time. Coronavirus is endemic in our species. Everybody has had it, or you're going to test positive for it if you had a head cold in the last 10 years. This is what is out there. Again, lots of conflicting information, but let's get back to that issue. So now people are like, no, you have to get the vaccine. Everybody, this is basically Bill Gates talking, and who is he? He's not a virologist. He's not even a scientist. He didn't even, the guy has just been a piranha in business with, computers. And he wants to vaccinate the world, and since he's funding it all, he stands to make enough profit to become the first trillionaire, or multi-trillionaire. That's just wrong motive right off the bat. Moving right along. So, the threat to me as a non-vaccinated person is that all you people out there that are vaccinated are, especially if you're freshly vaccinated from whatever it is they're vaccinating you with, but I'm focusing on coronavirus, which has been a failed experiment so far. Very, very bad results in previous iterations of vaccine trials. But the flu vaccines in general, I have a nurse friend up north, and Debbie was saying that, every winter, old people in the old folks' home, they get their flu shots, and then 2 weeks later there's a flu outbreak. And some of them get sick, and some of them get dead. From the field. Personal friend told me that. So the fact is that you shed this attenuated virus when you've been vaccinated. You actually become a carrier. It's the same. It's like a recessive virus. I don't want to say virus. Recessive works with gene, really. It's like they call retrovirus. Similar with AIDS, which was also, somehow associated with a coronavirus. Seems like this has been in the lab. That's my opinion. This coronavirus has been played with in the lab, and they're using it to make designer diseases, my opinion. So they can sell you designer vaccines, my opinion. But I believe that all of our medicines are available to us, and we should really be listening to our traditional peoples and the elders and the people of that keep their wisdom and knowledge and naturopathic healing ways all over the world. But I go with where I am. I'm here on Turtle Island. Yeah, that's what we call it. This is Turtle Island, and the peoples of Turtle Island know the medicine plants here. They know the environment here, and they know the planting characteristics, and they also know about catastrophes and catastrophe cycles. And we have scientific names for these, and so on. The point is, we need to be listening to why these traditional ways are so important, because this knowledge, they call it the medicine wheel, has every point that you need to know to have a successful human being. Successful meaning healthy, happy, and able to take care of yourself and your family. And that system, that philosophy, that native natural philosophy, is the recipe for our world civilization and our industrial civilization, is the recipe for healing and moving forward. and it always will be, and it always was. Nothing is new under the sun, folks. This has happened before. We've had, civilization scale upheavals. There are accounted for 4 previous worlds or 4 previous civilizations, according to my Seneca friends, and we're transitioning into the 5th world. The Hopi might say that we're in the 5th world going into the 6th world. The different nations have different accountings, but we're talking about large time scales here. And for us today to still have some connection left to all that knowledge, that's precious stuff. And for some reason, everything that is natural and healthy and living, which brings me back to the word sterile, they want us to sterilize everything and just stay in your box and watch what they're programming you with. Wipe everything down, hand sanitizers, all this stuff. Like I was saying, you're not cleaning with poison, you're poisoning with poison. So that's where I stand. I stand that so long as we have growing grass and running rivers and healing rain from the clouds, we have an opportunity to return to the balance and to return to our place in the web of life, and to understand our place in the web of life and the place of all other creatures and things, such as bacteria and virus, parasites, all manner, fungi. Everything eats. Even crystals grow. They eat the rock, and they extract silica and other elements from the air. The rock is a living thing. So I want to leave this segment and show on a positive note, and that we can listen to the crickets, or the crow, or even the ducks, and my dog underneath here. That we can do that. And we got to stop being afraid. Stop being afraid. We're social creatures. We need each other. We need to laugh. We need to hug each other, shake hands, and appreciate every moment of every day. Appreciate your wife, appreciate your kids, appreciate your pets, appreciate the songbirds and the crickets and we're going to be tested, because we also live in the community of our planets and the sun, and all of that has their cycles and their impact on the earth. And I've talked about this before many times. Grand solar minimum, we're in it. As the weather gets wacky, the magnetic field gets weak, the UV radiation gets more intense. Cosmic rays are hitting the surface of the earth much harder and much more. Cosmic rays, because of grand solar minimums, are also known to mutate viruses and bacteria, and that's called evolution. These are evolutionary processes. When you get hit with these kind of energies, we even evolve, and it affects our thinking. And if we are open to our position in the universe and our place in the world and our relations with each other and the web of life, we can handle it. We can handle what's coming. And I don't make predictions. I'm not saying the world is ending. I'm saying that, oh yeah, the world is changing. It's changing all right. It's doing what it does. And, you know, every 400 years, like clockwork, Mother Earth, if you want to call it Mother Earth, planet Earth, it has a catastrophe cycle. And these terrible floods happen, earthquakes and volcanoes, and mini ice ages. You know, there was the early 1800s. There was a cold spell that was pretty disastrous, and there was a minimum that went on for about 200 or 300 years. 1600s, 1700s, it was cold. 1300s, there was you know, terrible catastrophic weather. You know, bubonic plague. That took out 2/3 of Europe. That's what we know about. All right, so to wrap it up, we have I just want to say that, you know, this divide between people, which, you know, started me on this discussion, it's very sad. It's very wrong. You know, the idea that people are, you know, putting up walls between each other psychically and socially and so on, it's just not okay. You know, another thought is, you know, the thing with the masks. You know, I have a friend of some 40 years, and we're on opposite sides of the fence on this discussion. Like I said in the previous video, yeah, I wear the mask if I have to. Go into a store. You know, I don't buck that. I'm not trying to prove a point, but I'm not going to wear a mask at home, in my house, or in my car, or even on the street. Don't have to. I'll stay the 6 feet apart away from you. I'll stay 20 feet apart from you. But to wear a mask as a sign that I'm doing my part, that's nonsense. First of all, if we really have like a level 4, you know, contagion, that's a virus that's spreadable by air, mask, fabric, paper ain't gonna do you any good. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it anyway. That's the whole thing. It has to run its course, and it's gonna run its course. You can't flatten the curve. You can just stall it. It's still gonna do what it's gonna do, and that's what's happening across the country. Not to mention that the testing is flawed. There's so many flaws, and I don't even want to get into that. I just want to leave this on a positive note that the answers are here